Good morning to all of you. I welcome you all to the Q3 earnings call of KEC. I hope that you and your family are safe and healthy during these difficult times. Let me start with an update on the overall performance for the quarter and thereafter talk about each of the respective businesses. We have achieved revenues of 3,289 crores for the quarter with a growth of 7% vis-a-vis Q3 last year, despite a challenging environment. The growth has been led by a robust execution in our railway and civil businesses. The growth could have been higher, but for the intermittent COVID challenges faced at some international locations, especially Brazil, and the impact on our three ongoing projects in DMRC RRTS due to environmental NGT issues and the farmers' agitation, which created a huge pressure on the cement and steel availability, further accentuated by the shortage of steel in the market. We are ahead of schedule in many of our projects. Considering the sharp increase in commodity prices such as steel, aluminium, and zinc, we have taken a conscious call not to continue fast-tracking executions in some of these fast-track projects till the prices stabilize. Although we have started seeing a reversal of the price trend in the last few days, and availability of, especially of steel, has started improving. Notwithstanding this, considering our current order book and L1 position, we are very confident of a good growth in Q4 and also for the full year. Despite the intermittent COVID challenges, we have delivered an EBITDA margin of 9.1% for the quarter. The margins have been marginally impacted due to cost time escalations in Brazil amidst the pandemic, along with an overall increase in commodity prices globally. We have achieved a PBT margin of 6% and a PAT margin of 4.4% for the quarter, aided by a significant reduction in interest cost and optimization of the tax costs. Our YTD order inflow stand at 6,827 crores, which is largely contributed by a core T&D business, especially in the international market. We are pleased with our good order inflows in the international T&D market. If we add the L1s which we have, then the L1s plus the order intake for the year are actually higher than the L1s and the order intake for a similar period. If you just go by the order intake is lower, but if you add the L1 and you compare with the last corresponding 9 months, then we are better off. We also have a very strong order book of close to 18,000 crores as on date, along with an L1 position of 6,000 crores plus, contributed equally by our T&D and non-T&D business. Our net debt as on 31st December 2020 stands at 2,644 crores, which is largely in line with our targeted average borrowing levels of 2,500 crores for the year. With concerted efforts, we have brought down our interest costs consistently over the last few quarters, both in absolute terms as well as percentage to sales. Our interest costs for the quarter as percentage of sales have been brought down to 2%, which is a reduction of 60 basis points vis-a-vis last year, and a reduction of 19% in absolute terms. Now coming to the specific businesses, our core T&D business has witnessed a progressive ramp up across all project sites in domestic as well as international locations. There have been intermittent challenges due to COVID in some of the projects in international locations in the form of delay in approval of visas, work permits, and stringent quarantine guidelines. These have caused a lag in the startup execution of some projects. The overall tender pipeline continues to be strong in international T&D, especially in SAARC, Middle East and Africa. In case of domestic T&D, the revised bidding of Green Energy Corridor projects phase 2 tenders have been concluded for most of the schemes for this month. The bidding for the balance schemes and process of award is expected to be concluded in the next few weeks. The reverse auctions among the developers for the first few packages has already been concluded. We are well placed with quite a few packages with the winning developers, and we expect to start receiving the EPC orders very shortly. I am pleased to share that our recently acquired transmission tower manufacturing facility in Dubai has been commissioned in Q3. We have already announced our first few supply orders secured from other EPCs. We have also received approvals from some of our existing international clients for tower supplies. In SAE Brazil, the pandemic seemed to be under control in Q2 with the gradual decline in number of cases. However, it is again threatened with the rise in number of cases in Q3. amidst fears of a second wave underway in that country. This has led to a severe shortage of raw materials, thereby delaying execution of the EPC as well as power supply projects. Further, the steep depreciation of Brazilian real over the last year has also impacted the revenues post-cancellation this year. These challenges have also resulted in a significant time cost escalations which have impacted the margins severely. In spite of all the challenges, we have successfully energized one EPC project in December 20, and work on the new EPC project which was secured some time back has already commenced. We expect to complete the two old EPC projects in Q1, Q2 next year. As far as SL project is concerned, I am pleased to share that the favorable order from CRC for transfer of ownership has been received and the project is expected to restart within this quarter. Our railway business continues its high growth trajectory as it clocked a revenue of over rupees 800 crores for the second consecutive quarter with a robust growth of 44% vis-a-vis Q3 last year. In line with the growth strategy, the business continues to expand its portfolio in the technologically enabled emerging growth areas of metros, DFCC and high-speed trains. I am happy to share that we have already secured orders aggregating to approximately 500 crores from these new growth areas, including orders for metro electrification works from DMRC, ballastless track work from Kochi Metro, signaling and telecommunication work for DFCC, and construction of a depot cum workshop for the Delhi Meerut RRTS corridor. These orders have enabled in transitioning the railway business from a conventional EPC player to a technology player. Further, the business has expanded its client portfolio by securing its first private order for a composite doubling project, which includes track linking, signaling and telecommunication, and overhead electrification works. The railway tender pipeline continues to remain robust with a blend of conventional, technologically enabled emerging areas as well as international opportunities. Though the pipeline is robust, we are still witnessing a delay in awards as the tenders under evaluation has scaled up to over 6,000 crores currently. With the continued thrust on execution and an order book plus L1 of approximately 7,000 crores, we remain confident that railways will continue its growth trajectory. Our civil business continues to demonstrate exemplary performance as it registered a robust revenue growth of over 3 times vis-a-vis Q3 last year. The business continues to make good progress in entering new and strategic growth areas. After our first orders in the FGD and warehouse segment secured in H1, we have now secured breakthrough orders in the fast-growing chemical and water pipeline segments. We have also secured repeat orders in the cement and residential segment and our L1 in the first order in the public spaces segment. In addition to these areas, we continue to look for opportunities in data centers, oil and gas pipelines, hydrocarbon and urban infra segments. With the robust order book plus L1 of 3,500 crores, we are confident that this business will continue to be one of the key growth drivers for us going forward. In cables, after a muted H1, the business has rebounded strongly with the revenue growth of over 20% this quarter vis-a-vis Q3 last year. The business is progressing well on the development of additional new products and is on track to commercialize a few new railway products in Q4. Further, with the capacities of railway catenary, conductor and signaling cables have been augmented in Q3. We expect a good growth of the business through these new products and
overruns in couple of Brazil projects. So, what's really the drag like and what's the execution status on these projects? When are they expected to get completed?
So, Swarnim, if you look at Brazil, what has happened is the president and the country refused to recognize COVID as a national problem. Somebody said it's like a cough and sneeze, it will go away. So because of that, the government has not given any contractual relief on any contracts to anyone. It's not even considered as a force measure in Brazil. Because of which, what is happening is that you do not have any contractual relief on the time delays, on the costs which have been incurred in COVID. Unlike in India and other countries where governments declared it as a force measure, they gave you time relief, they made payments to you. A lot of things have happened. In Brazil, all that is expected to be absorbed by the contractor. Obviously, you're negotiating with the client, and we have already seen some claims coming in, but that's one primary reason. The second reason is because of the COVID, and just before COVID, if you remember, there was a Vale dam burst, because of which the availability of steel and the prices of steel and the logistic cost have really hit the roof. Even this quarter, again, the steel producers have been asking for a significant increase in the prices. So these two factors have come and hit. One is the execution cycle and also the cost of the projects. Now, we had 3 historic projects which have been going on for some time. Now, as I mentioned in the last call, one of them was supposed to be complete. That has got completed in the first week of December and has been handed over to the customer and has been charged. The other 2 projects, we expect that one of them will get completed in Q1 and the second one by early Q2. So by early Q2, the older projects will be over. We now have 3 projects which we have already announced, which we have signed up. There will be one more where we are close to signing a contract, which is in our L1. Work on one of them has already begun a month back. The 2 projects will start by March, April or so, and the 4th one will also start around in Q1. So I think we expect to start seeing normalizing of operations in Q1 in Brazil, but obviously there would be some negative impact continuing till that time. I think from Q2 onwards, we should start seeing sort of normal results coming out of Brazil.
Okay.
That's one.
Okay. Right, sir. Right. And sir, the other thing was that again, you mentioned that there were 3 big sites in India and which had some NGT issues. So are these really big projects, and have these been resolved, or this is like this can also linger on for another quarter or 2? How is the situation over there?
So we have got 3 metro cum RRTS projects in the city of Delhi. Okay.
Okay.
So one of them is facing some problem on account of the shifting of trees, like what we have in Mumbai and RA and all that. So there was some issue going on. I think that issue is not that severe, should get resolved. When I also mentioned environment, it is the typical Delhi of December, November with fog and the stubble burning and all that. So the clients were saying that, we need to be very careful with what is happening on the sites with, daily environment inspections and all that. So clearly the work had slightly slowed down with the stringent requirements of the Delhi Municipal Corporation and all that. I think more than the other problem which we are still facing in Delhi, even last 3 days the sites were closed because of the Republic Day and the Kisan Andolan which was happening. We had a serious issue constraint on the supply of cement and steel which were blocked. Most of the borders were blocked. So material coming into Delhi was because our yards and all that are in the city of Delhi. Okay. So of late we are seeing some easing off, but what I tried to say over there was that our revenues and all could have been better had this not happened. Okay. But I don't think we are worried about a significant impact. I think the NGT issue on tree cutting and all that is under resolution. It's a matter of time that it gets resolved. Environment issue is now no longer there with the smog and all getting cleared and all that. So the projects would be back to fast track execution, but they are getting normal execution is going on. Let's be very clear. It's not that execution has slowed down significantly, but the fast track planning which we are going on had slowed down for the last couple of months.
Right, sir. Got it. Thank you so much. I have more questions. I'll come back to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Swarnim. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have next question from the line of Priyankar Biswas from Nomura. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Priyankar.
Sir, my first question is regarding this T&D-X of Brazil. So what I see is that the execution levels are broadly similar to the second quarter levels. I mean, if we adjust the Brazil out of it. So are we facing ramp-up issues in India or is it abroad? And what are the issues we are facing on the ramp-up? And if you can just highlight, are there any logistics constraints we are facing? Because there has been a sharp increase in ocean freights as well. So if you can elaborate on that.
So Priyanka, India, we are not facing ramp-up issues. India, if you have been noticing my last few calls, India T&D has not been growing very well. Okay, that's one portion of our business which had not been growing because the India T&D market by itself has been pretty slow. Now, fortunately, with these orders of Green Energy Corridor and with the SL problem hopefully getting now resolved, we will see a significant ramp up happening in India T&D from Q1 or even maybe from March. Okay, so I will not say India T&D is facing any problem on ramping up. It's just the order book itself which was a. But if you look at by itself India T&D with whatever orders we had this quarter, we did very well. Okay, the problem which we are facing is international side, especially on Africa and a little bit on the Middle East because of the large restrictions which they are having on account of COVID in sending people. Okay, if you look at our order intake, a large number of orders have come from the international market. And off late because of COVID and all that, we've had some delays in mobilizing people, sending people, etc., which has basically caused, I'll say, a little bit of a delay in the international revenue ex SARC. Okay, SARC is doing very well, and the major increase which you see in freight and all that, logistic cost, is because our dispatches, especially to Bangladesh, Afghanistan, and all these countries have gone up significantly during the quarter, which is why there is an increase in the freight. It is not, as of today, I don't see let's say large impact of any freight increase cost. The costs are going up, but nothing to reflect significantly.
Okay, so that I understand. So that's fine. Sir, second question, if I may. So can you just give me a broad ballpark idea, like how much of your order book, let's say, would be of a fixed price contract nature? The reason I am asking is, in the last 1 month of the third quarter, we have seen the steel prices rising up, and you had also discussed about availability and those issues. So if even after this correction also, it's still quite high versus the average of 3Q levels. So were it to persist there, so I was just trying to assess how much of a margin impact we can still face, let's say, in the fourth quarter.
So difficult to give a number, because why I'm saying that even if the order book, let's say broadly, I'll say international T&D, broadly I'll say, excluding some countries in SARC and all that, Bangladesh and all that, where we have a price variation. Most of the orders in international T&D would be on a fixed price. Okay. So that is a number. Maybe Abhishek can later on give a number to you. But what you have to understand is, out of that, if you generally take steel, when we take T&D, and I'm just giving a general number, when we generally take steel today, steel is normally around 15-16% of our T&D order. Okay. So if you take a very broad look and say that, okay, I have today out of my 18,000, let's say if I have 10,000 crores of T&D order, I'm just giving a number, or 9,000 crore. Out of that, 16% would be broadly steel. Okay. But those are the sort of numbers which you can look at. The other thing but you have to look at is that all this steel and all that will have to go over a period of 6 months, 9 months, or maybe even 12 months. Which is why I said at the start of my address that in many of the projects where we were originally fast tracking, we are now thinking of going a little bit slow, because now we are seeing the steel prices coming down. Okay. How much impact would have? It's right now very difficult to say. Okay, very, very difficult to say. But to me, as I said, the absolute number is not very high. Okay, the absolute number of steel. And if you want to take a very broad number, over the year, if you look at my total, we probably consume around 2 lakh tons of steel. Okay, overall for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Of which maybe 25% or 30% or something could be on this. But and of that, a large part, if you take our railway business, entire business has got price variation. Bangladesh, most of the tenders have got price variation. So there are many projects which will have a clear price variation. So right now, very difficult to quantify what is happening. We also have a decent amount of stock in our hand, but there would be some impact. Okay, how much? To me, it's very difficult right now to quantify.
But sir, so what I was trying to understand is, let's say now the prices, let's say, moderate over time. So in that case, probably you can then ramp up your international execution, like where you have fixed price contracts. Then you can fast track at that time. Is this the philosophy?
So to us, the philosophy is that the project has to be executed in time. So based on the timelines, the project will get executed. If the prices are favorable, then we will even do the fast tracking as we had been doing in the past. If the prices are not favorable, then we will not fast track, but we will do on the normal project timeline. So no project will get delayed because of a price rise. That's not the way we operate. We will definitely keep on executing projects, but you will keep on juggling between the projects depending on the speed, what is required, what are the costs and all that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sir. That's all my question.
Thank you, Priyanka.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We have next question from the line of Bhumika Nair from DAM Capital. Please go ahead.
Yes. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Bhumika.
Yes, sir. Just in continuation of this raw material price hike and, in terms of while you spoke about the current order backlog where there should be, price variations, etc. But for the L1 where we yet to finalize and yet to get the awarded, and that's a fairly large number now, 6,000 crores, which will get largely awarded between Q4 and Q1. There, how are we hedging our raw materials and steel, etc., to make sure that our margin profile doesn't get hit?
So I think I'll say decent part of the L1 has a price variation clause, a decent part of it. Okay. Like we have a couple of orders in Brazil which we have renegotiated. We have orders in SAARC which have what we call a price variation. Then we have got some orders in civil, including water pipelines and others, which have got price variation. So I don't think we have got too many orders in L1 which are at a fixed price. So I don't think we are too much worried. And I think the other thing is that what will also happen is that the rupee has been fairly stable. So which may be negative for international, but when you look at the orders in India and all, where we are L1, where we have to supply conductor, etc., where we had assumed a fairly depreciated rupee rate. Okay, that rupee rate is now at 72.9 or 73 and all that. So a part of the commodity losses would also get hedged on account of a stronger rupee for projects where there is also a conductor supply. So in all, there could be some minor impact, but I don't think there could be a major impact. See, as far as hedging is concerned, it is today very, very difficult to go and hedge at these prices. And if you're not sure of getting the award, see, let's say if I go and hedge today, and then then for some reason the award doesn't happen. Okay.
Right.
And the prices come down, then you'll be stuck at a higher price also. So generally, we will not hedge in such cases unless we are very sure that this L1 will get converted into an order book,
Right.
So and steel per se as a commodity has been a bit difficult to hedge. Okay. So steel generally remains unhedged, to be very honest. Okay.
Okay.
Base metals get hedged. Steel will get hedged to the extent you have physical inventory.
So as we go ahead, would it be fair to say that this working capital, as you said, strategically we've been a little relaxed or, built up a little bit of some inventory. Will that get normalized as we move ahead, say 3-4 months ahead from now?
Normally क्या होता है भूमिका, मार्च में तो वर्किंग कैपिटल वैसे भी नॉर्मलाइज हो जाता है. Most of the clients tend to, especially the government clients like RVNL, Railways, Power Grid, all tend to pay up in the last quarter in any case. Okay, so every quarter we have seen that March numbers always go down. So I think the March numbers should be much better than the December numbers, notwithstanding what you're talking about inventory increase and all that. And my view is that now that the prices have started coming down, I think the inventory build-up would not be required. That's our view today, but maybe it changes after some time. So working capital will get normalized, and also on the interest cost, I think we are clearly seeing that interests are not going up right now. Okay, they have stopped coming down, but I don't see them going up immediately.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the other question was in terms of T&D, as you said that, this quarter we'll get some of these finalization of these TBCB orders. But as we move ahead into FY22, what is the pipeline in terms of tendering and, where are the orders coming from in T&D, both in domestic from either TBCB or ACBs and in terms of international? So if you can throw some light on ordering activity for next year.
So ordering will basically happen from TBCB only. There's a large package announced in Bihar now, Katihar region and all that. That's another big package which has come out, which will go under TBCB apart from this green energy corridor which is getting finalized. Then there are some orders coming out in the southern side of the country, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala. There are large orders which are in the pipeline. Rajasthan has got some orders coming out. So those are the areas where we are seeing in PGCIL as well as SAB. There are also some orders coming out in the private sector, especially in around Mumbai city because of the blackouts and all which had happened. Some very large tenders have been floated by Adani, Tatas and all that in the private sector. So that is India. SAARC, there are very large tenders. Okay. So to me, that's where it will come out, apart from obviously Middle East and rest of Africa. So I think T&D, we see, if you look at the numbers which I have right now, I got almost 19,000 crores of likely tenders in the next 6 months in the T&D area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I'll come back in the queue then, sir. All the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. To ask a question, participants may press star and 1 on your touchtone phone now. We have next question from the line of Srimant Dudhotia from Unifi Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
A couple of questions. Firstly, as you highlighted, you are, in spite of the 9-month performance, you're still looking for a growth for the full year driven by, the quarter 4 execution. Now, given that, the commodities are still at an elevated level, and variety of commodities, not just steel, aluminium, cement. Do we expect this growth at the profitability level in the quarter 4? That's the first question.
So I think our expectation is that we will grow decently, definitely double digit in Q4, no question about it. Okay, so I don't think we are worried about growth. The second piece is profitably, yes. I don't think our margins will touch double digit for this quarter or this year, okay? But there will be a significant growth of revenue in this quarter, and I think that will give us some leverage benefits. So I think we should hopefully be able to maintain our margins for the year.
Got it, sir. And the second question is, in the overall order book and the L1 mix, could you help us with the number of how much is contributed from the SAARC nations? Because you said that, the orders from these countries have a variable clause. Can you help us with that percentage number?
I don't have the exact number, but it's somewhere around 1,200-1,300 crores or something. Okay? Between 1,000 and 1,500. I think it's closer to 1,200-1,300. Okay? Abhishek can give you the exact number, but it's definitely about 1,000 crores.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have next question from the line of Sanjay Doshi from Nippon India Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir.
Morning,
Thanks for the
Sanjay.
opportunity. Sir, just a couple of questions. One is on the civil business, sir. If you can help us appreciate how are we progressing on expanding the reach, because it's a very large business as such and very different subsegments. So how have we progressed in terms of, say, new verticals, and how do we see this business 2-3 years down the line? And on the same lines, what is our targeted profitability for civil and railways, maybe say next 2 years? If you can just help us on that, sir. Thank you.
So Sanjay, on profitability, this quarter was the first time when actually railways touched double-digit numbers. Okay, we have been hovering around the double-digit, but this quarter railways actually crossed double-digit. Okay, we do hope that they can maintain that streak in Q4 also. Civil is gradually improving its numbers. It is now in high teens. It's still not on double-digit on the margins, but I think it is slowly inching towards that. Okay. So margin, I think very clearly our targets have always been that you need to be in double digit once you reach a particular level of maturity in the business. So we do expect that civil should also head towards double digit on the margins. As far as revenue growth is concerned in civil, this quarter was exceptional because last quarter was poor. So we had a 300%, 3 times growth of last quarter Q on Q in civil. During the quarter, we have received orders, as I mentioned earlier, in the chemical industry. We got our, first order. We got our first order in water pipeline. Repeat order from in cement. We also got the order from the largest cement manufacturing company in India. And clearly, we are seeing huge traction coming up in some of the industrial segments, whether it is cement, whether it is metals, okay. Chemicals. I think 3 sectors I can see very clearly in the industrial side. In urban infra, when I say urban infra, it's largely metros. We are right now executing 5 projects, and all 5 of them are doing very well, both on revenue as well as on margin front. Okay, we should also get one more project in urban infra, and we are also L1 in our first airport project. So I think on the civil side, we are doing very well. Our first data center is under construction, and that also is progressing well. So the areas where we are looking at is public spaces, urban infra, which is largely, metros and some pieces of public spaces, and industrial. Residential, we have been getting orders, but we are not very bullish. We are not expanding residential like anything. Most of the expansion is going to happen in industrial and in these verticals. And as far as the growth is concerned, I think civil should definitely have at least a 50% growth next year. Over whatever we do this year, 50% growth is definitely, if not more, on the cards for civil next year.
Thank you very much, sir. Good to know about railways double digit, and from your comment, I think I can appreciate that the learnings on civil has been much better as compared to railways. All the best, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Sanjay.
Thank you, sir. We have next question from the line of Ashutosh Garud from Ocean Dial Asset Management. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, so just wanted to...
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is the operator. Please use the handset, sir. We're not able to hear very clearly. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So just wanted to understand from a near-term perspective, we do understand that there are some executional issues internationally and commodity pressures in the near term. But going ahead, let's say from Q1, Q2 onward, would you be comfortable in getting back to that 15% growth? I know Q1, Q2 base is lower from a revenue perspective. Last year, Q1, Q2 were normally low, let's say. But on an overall growth trajectory from a revenue perspective, you would be back to 15% growth and 10.5% margins. How confident you are? And from which quarter do you see this normalcy coming in your business?
So, Ashutosh, in spite of the problems which we are seeing on some of the execution and all that, I think we are very clear that even in Q4 we should have a decent growth, and I do hope that we should be able to achieve a double-digit growth for the whole current year also, FY21. Although we are right now at 6% for the 9 months, but I do expect that a fairly good growth in Q4, which should overall increase our growth for the whole year. FY22, clearly, as you rightly said, Q1 for us was bad, not Q2. Q2 we had a 16% growth even in the FY21. So Q2 was a normal quarter for us in FY21. So similarly, we do expect FY22 also to be normal. Whether we'll achieve 10% or 15% today is difficult to say. We still have restrictions and all that. But I think with our current order book of an L1 of more than 25,000 crores, I do not see a challenge in having a double-digit growth next year. I don't see a challenge at all in having a double-digit growth. Whether it starts from Q1, Q1 in any case will be double-digit because Q1 last year was a degrowth. Okay. So I don't see whether we'll reach 15% or not. I don't think I want to commit it today, but I think I can stick my neck out and say that we should clearly have a double-digit growth next year. Margins, whether we'll be able to cross 10% or not, again, I think is a little bit of a function of the metals. If metals continue at the present levels, 10% may or may not be achievable. I'm honestly not sure. I can't commit on that. I think we are right now around 9%. Let's see how the metals behave. I don't want to commit myself today because the metals have gone up abnormally high. Okay. Although, as I said, we are seeing a benign trend and we expect it to come down. But today, it's difficult for me to see what will happen. Maybe after a month or 2 months, when we see the long-term trend setting back into the metals, we'll be able to commit better on the margins. But I think the present level of margins should be sustainable. The other thing what we'll also have is that if we have a 10 to 15 or whatever number of growth we have next year, then we will definitely have the benefits of leverage. Also, cost reductions are happening. Interest cost is going down. So I think we have to also see the fact that, all this would result in a beneficial number at the PBT level, if not at the EBITDA levels. Okay?
And sir, also some color on how the competition is shaping up for you, especially post-COVID times. Has the competition receded, if you can do something?
Sorry, I couldn't hear your question, Ashutosh.
I'm saying, I also wanted to know your...
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt. We're not able to hear you. Could you please use the handset while asking the question? Thank you.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I also wanted to know how the competition is shaping up in post-COVID times domestically.
So competition had gone down in Q1 and Q2, okay, because of various reasons and problems in bank finance and other things and all that. In Q3, I don't know if you recollect, government had relaxed guidelines on what we call bank guarantee requirements and tender security, etc. Because of which we are seeing a lot of small players now coming back with inadequate banking facilities. What will happen if they win the project is anybody's guess. At a much more serious player level, I think we are seeing some of the larger players becoming very hungry for taking orders. So to me, the competitive intensity in India, especially on T&D, has gone up. Okay. And on the smaller value railway contracts of say 100 crore, 200 crores and those values, we are seeing intensity going up. But if you take above 500 crores and all that, generally the competitive intensity has still been pretty low. 2 players, 3 players, max, let's say 4 players, that way. And even on large T&D, the competitive intensity is less. But if you take at 100, 200, 300 crores, we are seeing the competitive intensity going up in India.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashutosh.
Thank you. We have next question from the line of Parikshit Kandpal from HDFC Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Congratulations on the decent set of numbers. My question was that within your segments, excluding T&D, so which are the segments, in over 2-3 years, do you think could become quite sizable, maybe to the extent that they are as big as the T&D segment? And what efforts you are making towards achieving that?
So, Parikshit, generally I can say that railways is becoming pretty large. So, railways in India is already bigger than India T&D. So, clearly, next 2 years, we'll see railways doing very well in terms of revenue and margin. Civil is already growing very well, but obviously the volumes are still small. So, let's say after 2 years or so, we will start seeing, even now, civil should be contributing, let's say, around 10% of our revenues. Next year, it will contribute more than 10%. railways are already reaching 25% or so, or 30% of our revenues. So this quarter we had 45% non-T&D. I think going forward it will cross 50% the way it is going on. But I think the good part is T&D internationally we're getting a lot of orders. So I think it's a tug of war going on what happens between the businesses. But civil and railways are growing much more than other businesses.
So within railways now, so on your own balance sheet, so what could be the size of a single order which you have qualified now? So you have PQ.
Difficult to answer that, Parikshit, because what we are seeing is that in railways there are at least 20 sub-segments.
Okay.
And each sub-segment has a different qualification. So it's very, 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 very difficult for me to give an answer to. I have bid for, I'll say, projects of the largest project which I've got on my own has been 1,000 crores. Okay. So depending upon if it's an OHE project, I can bid for any size. If it's a civil project, maybe 200, 300, 400 crores, and we are just finishing some large civil projects in railways. Once they are complete, then I think our civil qualification will also go up. Our metro viaducts are getting, progressing well. So we should be able to bid for some of the, railway bridges and viaducts, So I think it's going on. Signaling, telecommunication, we have for some particular size. So each segment has got a different number. Difficult to give you a specific number.
My question was more because if you're looking at growth in these segments and larger growth coming in from these segments, then we also should have like the qualifications to that extent that the average order size also grows, and that will give us some scale benefit and margin benefit as well. So do you think in 2 years time frame you should be in a position where you'll be qualified independently for larger size orders like 1,500 or 2,000 crores? Do you see that happening in the next 2 years?
So again, I'm repeating, Parikshit, it will depend upon in what area it comes. Okay. If it's coming in electrification, I can do any amount of order. Okay. If it is a pure play civil, I will not be able to qualify for a 1,500 crore order. Like I'll give an example. Today, bullet train they have come out with new tenders. L&T has won some large tenders, but there are other smaller tenders which are there. Okay. So some of them are 2,000 crore, 1,500 crore and all that. Even now when I'm bidding for some of the metro civil and all that, I need a partner. So it depends. Once I finish some of my orders, maybe next year we should be able to qualify. But let me tell you one thing. Getting a JV partner in railways and civil and all has not been a major challenge. So even if we don't qualify on our own for large projects, I think there are very few projects which we have not been able to bid because I don't have the qualification. Okay. So I don't see that as a challenge.
And same thing is applicable to civil part also, right? Your civil.
Absolutely.
Okay. So
So I'm sorry to interrupt. Would you like to come back in the question queue?
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time and fairness to all participants, please restrict questions to 2 per participant. We have next question from the line of Simran Bhatia from SMC Global Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Sir, I have couple of questions. Just the first is that is the EBITDA margins at 9.1% has been bottomed out, or it will be? Are you seeing little bit further deterioration in the EBITDA margin going forward? And secondly, what is your call on the interest reduction, because you are doing it fantabulous, doing excellently from the past 2 or 3 quarters, and my third question is, what is that you have stated in your earlier remarks that there's a delay in the orders? What is that delaying the orders from the government or itself? If you can throw some light on that. That's all.
So the delay in the orders are on tenders which have been opened but not awarded. There are tenders where, let's say, we are L1 for a long time, but for whatever reason, either the government doesn't have fund or the private sector has postponed. So there have been, I'll say, unduly delay in award of some of the projects. I know at least 1 or 2 projects where we have been L1 for 1 year now. Okay. And we don't understand why they've not been awarded. So that was one item when I said that, with order book plus L1, we have a reasonable number. There have been some delays, but we are now slowly seeing awards happening, and hopefully for the government project, I think with the budget on first, lot of allocations should happen for new projects. and we will see some of the awards happening. Regarding margin, I do hope that the bottoming has happened. We don't expect the margins to, go below the current levels, provided the metals still don't go up. Okay. This quarter Q4 is going to be a challenging quarter, but I do expect that we should be able to maintain these numbers, hopefully, with the help of, the size, the leverage. Because this quarter, normally Q4 is normally around 40% of our revenues every year. Okay. And if we are able to maintain that trend of having a 40% revenue coming in Q4, we should be able to do a good growth, and then we should get the benefits of leveraging for this quarter, as well as that will impact the full year. We'll keep our fingers crossed, okay, on the margins. Yeah, and on interest front, I will ask Rajiv, who's there on the call, to give you a reply. Rajiv?
Yeah, Vimal, so basically, Simran, on the interest front, I think since the Q4 revenue is going to be higher, so we expect that interest cost as a percentage to sale will further go down. But for the year as a whole, we expect interest cost will be around 2% level. Because, if you look at the 9 months period, the interest cost has been 2.3% or so. So it will come down to around 2% for the year as a whole.
Okay. Done. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Simran.
Thank you. We have next question from the line of Kunal Sheth from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hi, Kunal.
I just wanted to know, our non-T&D share has gone up to 40% now in the 9-month period. So, is it largely because of the slowdown in the T&D? And where do we see, the share of non-T&D in the next 3-4 years?
So, Kunal, two things have happened. One is T&D absolutely has not grown because of degrowth in SAE. Okay, so that is one reason that T&D remains at virtually the similar level or maybe slightly below last year. And second is you have seen railway and civil growing. Railway has grown by 44% and civil has grown 3 times. So both these factors, T&D not growing and other businesses growing, have contributed for this. Going forward, I clearly see that this trend will continue because railway is continuing to grow in the same manner. I think next year again we'll have at least a 20% growth in railways, and as I was saying, at least a 50% growth in civil. So with that sort of growth happening, and clearly T&D cannot grow at 50% in these numbers, so the ratio of non-T&D will definitely grow. My view is that it will at least become 50% in the next year.
Okay. But sir, this 50%, do you expect it to sustain? Because, as you rightly said, with T&D dominating, a double-digit order flow growth for us, will be a tough in a way.
Yeah, but T&D, others have not got that many orders, which we'll get. Now, L1 also has railways and all that. So I'm not too much worried about it. T&D is definitely growing, but what I'm saying is that the percentage of growth in civil and railways is significantly higher. Okay. So it will definitely, my view is that non-T&D will become 50%.
Yeah, sir, but will it sustain there for the next few years, or?
It will definitely sustain, because what will happen is that with the railway volumes growing, the railway growth percentage will come down, but for civil it is still at a much lower number. So civil will continue to grow at 40-50% at least for this year, next year at least. 2 years I can definitely see civil growing at least 50%. So I think with this growth and the railway growing at 20-25%, I think the growth in these two businesses will clearly outstrip the growth in transmission. Okay, so I do feel that the non-T&D share will definitely get sustained at least for the next 2 years.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kunal.
Thank you. We have next question from the line of Vipin Goyal from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello sir. Good morning.
Morning, Vipin.
Yeah, sir, on the railway order book side, just to harp upon that a bit. Although we understand there are a lot of segments within that, but broadly, if I had to break it down between the electrification orders and the non-electrification orders, what would that be? That is on the margin side also within these two segments. If you can give a color on that, that will be helpful.
So I don't have the exact breakup, but broadly my understanding is that 1/3 of the railway order book is from OHE. Okay, 1/3 would be OHE, 1/3 would be in the composite section, and the balance would be on the what we call the metro section. Okay, metro civil and non-civil put together, because there is one metro civil project also which is in the railways business. So I think I'll broadly say they are 1/3, 1/3. 1/3 OHE, 1/3 composite, and 1/3 metros. Margins difficult to say. We don't give section-wise margins and all that. So difficult to give up, and I don't have it also. Difficult to give.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right, sir. Still, just to it's a broad idea we can get on that whether the electrification orders are higher margin than the metro orders, or is it just on the the project mix? It won't difference.
It won't make a difference, Vipin. It is all basically project to project. Okay. It won't make a major difference. To me, you can take a uniform margin on all the orders.
Okay. All right. And then, sir, just last one on the forex gain or loss, anything that we had on this quarter, if you can give that number.
Rajiv, you want to answer this?
Yes, Vimal. So basically, what is happening within is that last year we changed our policy of doing the forex accounting as a hedge accounting. Okay. Earlier, you would have seen that a large fluctuation or variation was happening on quarter-on-quarter basis, depending on the currency movement. So last year we decided to adopt a hedge accounting. And what happens in the hedge accounting, basically, whatever revenue that is yet to come in, so you take it to the whatever the hedging we are doing, that movement of the currencies goes into the reserve account and gets accounted for as a part of a revenue. So most of the hedging gain this time is being accounted for as a part of a revenue. Apart from that, whatever the balance sheet items are there is a small gain or loss which gets accounted for in the profit loss account as a separate accounting. So this quarter there was a gain of roughly about 7-8 crore rupees for the balance sheet item which were hedged during the period. But most of the gain has been going as a revenue in the balance sheet.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We have next question from the line of Varun Ginodia from Ambit Capital. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, sir, for the opportunity, and congratulations on a decent set of numbers. My question is on the interest cost side. So do you see more room for interest cost as percentage of revenue to go down from these levels, or should we see them stabilize at 1.92% kind of levels going forward? And secondly, on the absolute debt levels, do we have any levers to get down that number from 2,500 crores range that we are hovering around? So do we have any levers to get that absolute numbers also go down in next couple of years? So any thoughts there will be appreciated.
Rajiv?
Yeah, Vimal. So basically, as far as the interest cost as a percentage to sale, I think it all depends on where the interest rate movement happens in the coming quarters. Our view is that interest rates probably has bottomed out in India, and let's say the further going down on the interest rates may not be feasible, considering the large borrowing program of the government and as the economy starts picking up now. As far as the borrowing part is concerned, borrowing definitely we have the intention to bring it down further. And but we also have to consider that we are expecting double-digit growth in the business to happen, to return from the next year onwards. So maybe 10%, 15% growth on year to year will happen. So that I don't think that with the EPC industry, working capital is the main requirement. It's a main component. With the 15% kind of a growth that we will be targeting, it will be difficult to bring down the debt level from the current 2,500 crore or so. But nevertheless, the efforts are always there to have a free cash flow and a positive cash flow, which will help us to reduce or optimize, I would say rather optimize the working capital borrowing further going forward. But by and large, you can consider that 2%, 1.8 to 2% kind of an interest rate should be sustainable.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. We have next question from the line of Saket Kapoor from Kapoor Company. Please go ahead.
Yeah, धन्यवाद sir for the opportunity.
Namaskar Kapoor ji.
Namaskar sir. Sir, firstly sir, about this water pipeline part sir, is it our first maiden foray into the segment sir? That is in the DIP that we are acting as an EPC for the DI pipe laying?
Yes, it is the first foray. I think we did some very small projects a few years back, but on the current size and all what we are doing for the drinking water, this is our first foray.
And it is in the state of Madhya Pradesh, sir, which we are coming up? Where exactly it is and what is the size?
I don't want to give the individual number, but it is in the state of Odisha.
It is in the state of Odisha. So now with the to our CFO sir, the forex has played always a role contributing in the PNL. So sir, has there any change in the accounting policy? I missed the earlier comment from the CFO sir. तो अभी इस क्वार्टर में फॉरेक्स का क्या इम्पैक्ट है राजीव?
So in this quarter, Saket, the forex impact, as I mentioned, is about 7 to 8 crore gain that we have booked for the quarter. Basically, we have changed the policy, as I mentioned to the previous participant also, that we have changed the policy of accounting for the forex gains and losses. We are now we have adopted the hedge accounting. So what happens in the hedge accounting, that the revenue which has not accrued, that whatever gains or losses are there on that account, that goes in the balance sheet reserve and gets accounted for as a revenue, as and when the revenue is accounted for on those forex item which you have hedged in the market. So whatever gains or losses are there on the hedge accounting goes as a part of a revenue. So you don't see a lot of volatility, in the balance sheet, because even after hedging, so the currency movement does affect, your prompt loss account. To avoid those volatilities, we have adopted the hedge accounting.
But this has been adopted, Rajiv, some time back, not this quarter.
No, not this quarter. This was adopted last year. In fact, last year's second half we adopted this.
Yeah.
Right, sir. You told about this Brazil issue affecting our numbers. So, sir, this consolidated result wherein we have seen the employee benefits and the other expenses not matching with the increase in revenue, are these going to stay for the next quarter also, and things will only be in order from the Brazil part from the first quarter of the next financial year? This is what
employee benefits से उसका कोई connection नहीं है, but the fact is right that in Brazil and all that, you normally don't do subcontracting. You hire all the workers on your roll.
हाँ सर.
So because of that, ये सारे लोग जो होते हैं वो आपके रोल में आते हैं और उनका कॉस्ट डायरेक्टली आपके एम्प्लॉय कॉस्ट में दिखता है. तो जब तक ब्राजील में हम 4 ईपीसी ले रहे हैं और कर रहे हैं, तो ब्राजील के ईपीसी के कॉस्ट तो जब तक मॉडल चेंज होकर सब कॉन्ट्रैक्टिंग पे नहीं जाएगा, वो तो एम्प्लॉय कॉस्ट में ही दिखेगा.
तो ये चेंज होगा सर क्या आगे के लिए कि ये ऐसे ही रहेगा?
नहीं, ये तो ऐसे ही रहेगा, बिकॉज आपके ब्राजील में तो ईपीसी कर रहे हैं, तो नए ईपीसी का कॉस्ट आएगा.
Okay, sir. Cable segment, last point, sir. Cable segment, how is that going to perform? That is conclude.
So cable has been doing, I'll say reasonably okay in terms of sales, especially on the railway side. Okay, but otherwise क्या हो रहा है कि because metal has gone up so much, aluminium 2000 हो गया, copper 8000 हो गया, तो कई लोग अपने बाइंग को पोस्टपोन कर रहे हैं कि थोड़े दिन और रुकते हैं, जब मेटल कम हो जाएगा तब आएगा. सो ओवरऑल केबल का डिमांड थोड़ा सा कम हो रहा है, स्पेशली ऑन द इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर. बट लास्ट क्वार्टर थोड़ा ठीक देखा था. आगे देखेंगे. मार्जिन का प्रेशर है केबल में बिकॉज ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल. जितने भी आपके प्लास्टिक बेस्ड रॉ मटेरियल प्राइसिंग है, ऑल ऑफ देम हैव शॉट अप सिग्निफिकेंटली. सो केबल दिस क्वार्टर ऑल्दो सेल्स में अच्छा काम किया, मार्जिन में प्रेशर है. Q4 में भी मार्जिन में थोड़ा प्रेशर रहेगा, सेल ठीक रहेगा, क्योंकि अभी तक तो XLP PVC के दाम कम नहीं हुए हैं. देखते हैं क्या होता है.
ठीक है जी, ठीक, धन्यवाद.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have next question from the line of Renu Baid from IIFL. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good morning, sir.
Morning, Renu.
So I have few questions. Broadly, as in we did speak about execution headwinds and now improving things back on track. So broadly, can one say that in CQ, whatever headwinds we saw in the T&D, SAE, as we look towards fourth quarter and the next few quarters, execution should now start to get back to normal and growth should be there? Or we think there could be some headwinds in some of the business segments as well?
See, as far as execution is concerned, what we have said is that Q4 will definitely be a good quarter. And based on that growth, that for the Q4, we do expect that, we should do at least a double-digit growth in this, the whole year, I'm saying. Okay? And similarly, I think with our order book at what level which it is, I don't see that we should be doing less than a double-digit again next year also. So headwinds are there, but headwinds are there in some places, some countries, some projects. But we are doing 220 projects today. Okay.
Correct.
So 4, 5, 7, 8 projects having headwinds will not have a significant impact. It does have an impact. So from double digit you have come down to 7% growth. Had we not seen headwind, we would have probably had a double digit growth. Okay.
Right.
But it's not something which will move the needle too much. Okay.
Correct.
There is some movement, but not significant enough for me to get very worried.
Right. And second, on the margins, I know it's been discussed earlier as well, but broadly, when one looks at that, despite all the headwinds, just probably last 9 months, margins have been stuck at 9% levels, partially due to COVID-related impact in other segments. But increasingly, as in within investors, is also a concern that is civil segment, especially metro, pulling down margins as projects move in advanced stage of execution. So if you can try and share some inputs in terms of how have been the profitability and the pace of execution on these civil projects. And in your view, by when should we look or target at least 10.5% margins back for the business?
So let me, as far as the metro projects are concerned, we are doing right now on 5 metro projects. Okay. All the 5 are ahead of schedule. Okay. And all the 5 are doing better than the tender margins.
Okay.
And when I say better than tender margins, all of them are without taking into account any claims which we may have later on.
Okay.
There are time extension claims, there are COVID claims, there are various scope change claims and all that, which as a policy we don't account for till we have the claims accepted and cash in our bag. Okay. So I honestly, as of today, I do not see any reason why the profitability of our civil metro projects will go down. Okay.
Okay.
We are very confident of what is happening on the civil metro projects, and I think we are very happy with the progress. And maybe we should put up some photographs somewhere, and maybe I will send across some photographs of what we are doing. So I think we are very happy with that. Coming back to the second question on margins. So to me, I think the margins have got pulled down. One is obviously because of a little bit on the commodity side, but mainly it has been the impact of SAE. If you take out SAE, we are more than double digit. We are in double digit in any case. If you look at the standalone, we are more than 10%, significantly higher than 10%. Okay. As I said that I think the SAE issues will continue for next 2 quarters or so. We're trying to resolve them, but we now have new orders. So it will now depend upon how quickly the impact of metals can get absorbed or they come down and all that, and how quickly we can move to double digit. Whether it would be Q1, Q2, it's very difficult to answer right now because metals have been moving very, very erratically. Okay. So to me it's a little bit difficult to answer when will we reach back to 10.5 and all that. Our aim is to reach as soon as possible, but maybe we'll have to wait for a couple of quarters to reach there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So lastly, as in when we were looking to some of the projects which have been opened up recently, as in we have also emerged, maybe not L1, but we have been L2 on 2 orders, large orders from Chennai Metro. And if the customer awards only one contract to a player, then probably we might win another 1,000 crore of order in that segment as well. So in terms of the company's preparedness to execute large size metro projects across cities, how is the bandwidth as well as the ordering flow outlook in the civil segment for us?
So just to clarify on the Chennai Metro, as per the terms of the tender, one bidder can get only one job.
Right.
So since L1 is one party in both the lots, if the client goes strictly by the terms of the contract, we should get one job. But it's not. But since it's not clear, we have not even taken it in our L1. So when we say 24,000, that doesn't include these projects. Number one.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Number two, if you look at our existing 2 DMRC projects, both are close to 1,000 crore. So doing a 1,000 crore project, we are already doing one in railway. We are doing one 1,500 crore project in T&D in Bangladesh. So and we are doing one 900 crore project in Oman. So I think doing large projects of 900,000 crore is not something which worries us. Okay. Capability build in this sector is not difficult. Let me put it this way. There were, if you remember, even now there are 7 or 8 players who keep on bidding for some of these projects. So, internal capability has been built, but hiring capability in this sector is relatively easy. Okay.
Right. No, it was more specific because Chennai is usually not a very easy market to work for EPC contractors. They have their own set of issues.
So let me clarify. Even today, as of today, when we are talking, I have got 3 large T&D projects in the city of Chennai. I am doing one project which is I think close to 800 crores in the city of Chennai. After having finished one, they are doing another 2 projects. So I am right now doing 3 projects of T&D in the city of Chennai.
Okay.
So I think that doesn't worry me. We are clear of the issues we are facing. But as I said that we are working in Chennai. So I'm not worried about. We know how to tackle Chennai.
Got it. So broadly for the civil segment, abroad as in 2 to 3 year growth targets are broadly intact of growing this business at more than 30-35% CAGR.
100%. Very clear. They should grow more than that, not 30-35.
Right. I think next year obviously it would be significantly larger. Thereafter 30-35%, 40% CAGR, whatever the number.
Let us see. We want to do better than that. Let's see. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Sure. Okay, sir. Thank you so much, and that's it from my side. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have the last question from the line of Swarnim Maheshwari from Edelweiss Securities. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the opportunity again. Sir, just one question. So you did mention about your T&D ordering pipeline of about 20,000 odd crores. If you can just tell us how does the canvas look like for our overall, on the overall basis, including the railways, civils, and the other business?
So railways, with the tenders which we have made and what we have today, we have got around, I'll say 12,000-13,000 crores of order tenders in pipeline. Okay. And similar number is for civil. So anywhere between 10 to 12,000 crores of tenders which have been bid or are being bid. That's the number.
Right. So overall, about say 45 to 50,000 crores is your ordering pipeline for the next 6 to 12 months.
Tender quoted plus tender to be quoted roughly are around 60,000 crores. सब मिला के. T&D, non-T&D, मतलब so दोनों मिला के quoted, non-quoted, to be quoted and all that put together are around 60,000 crores.
Perfect. And I'm sure that tenders to be quoted, the bids, the call for the bids is already on, isn't it?
Absolutely. No, I'll not say all of them are on, but there are many of them which we know that will come. Okay. Most of them are on. Okay. But there are some where we know that they are going to come now. Like as I said, a scheme has been announced by REC saying yes, scheme ka bidding abhi hona hai. So we know that this bidding will happen now. Okay. So some of them where we know that it will happen are also there in this number, but largely I'll say out of the 60,000, probably I'll say 50,000 have already been announced. Bids are there in the market.
Right, sir. Got it. So this is very helpful. Thank you so much and wish you all the very best, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Sonal. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question. I'd now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Vimal Kejriwal for closing comments. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, everyone, for your continued interest. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of KEC International Limited, that concludes this conference call. Thank you for joining with us, and you may now disconnect your lines.